Good morning, class. Uh, Welcome to this session of Strategic Financial Management. In our last class, we were discussing regarding the financial goal of any business organization, and let us briefly look back into what we had discussed. So, there are two main objectives of financial management. First one is profit maximization, and the next one is wealth maximization. Profit maximization tells that at the end of the day, the business and the financial managers should see to that the profit is maximized of their businesses. But then, while we also discussed regarding why profit maximization cannot be taken as the sole objective of a business organization. Maybe because due to how vague it is, or due to ambiguity, or also telling in the changed business scenario what are the perception of the shareholders. And then we considered that it is shareholders' wealth maximization which people are giving more concern in today's world. And also we discussed how than profit maximization under shareholders' wealth maximization, even the time value of money and cash inflows and outflows are given importance. And that's why shareholders' wealth maximization stands above profit maximization. And also that it not only is considered from point of view of the insiders, but also it includes all those who have invested in the company. And moving forward, we also discussed some other objectives of financial management. The first one is stakeholders' wealth maximization. Under this, we studied that who are stakeholders and how stakeholders welfare maximization is a bit elaborated than that of shareholders wealth maximization. The next one was maximization of economic value added, and here we studied that the value of the company is calculated by deducting firm's weighted average cost of capital, which would be multiplied by total capital invested from net operating profit that is available in the hands of the business organization. And also we discussed that shareholders' wealth maximization is always considered above maximization of economic value added. The next one that we studied was maximization of earnings per share. Here, the main concern is to see that the income that each share earns should be maximized. And the next one that we studied was maximization of sales. So, under this, we studied that the financial manager always aims to maximize volume through maybe cutting of price or adding additional features and improving the quality of the product, or by taking aggressive advertising and sales promotion campaigns, widening distribution networks, or also maybe adding intermediaries to penetrate more markets. But we should also remember that this is not generally regarded as objective of financial management, because higher sales volume does not necessarily mean equal proportionate increase in profits of the enterprise or wealth of the shareholders, or for that matter, even the welfare of stakeholders. And the last object that we studied was maximization of market share. Now, this particular object focuses on establishing the firm as a market leader by acquiring maximum percentage of the overall market. Now, every firm seeks to be the number one among companies operating in the market, and for that matter, any company it might be, it wishes to create a brand name for itself, or what we call as goodwill or image of the company, to which might every other customer can relate. Now, this particular objective involves undertaking of aggressive strategies to reach that position. But then again, like sales maximization, maximization of market share is also not considered as the objective of financial management, because there does not exist what we call as a perfect correlation between higher market share and increased wealth of the shareholders or profitability of the business. So, this is all about the objective of financial management. Then, so we shall move forward with the need for valuation approach, or we should try to understand why is it necessary that we should value the company, and in valuing company, why should we maintain certain models. Now, speaking of that, the market price serves always as the firm's performance indicator. Now, the question arises, how is the market price of the firm or the firm's share can be determined? Now, among so much we studied, shareholders' wealth maximization as an objective also requires a valuation model. The financial manager should and must know, or in the least case, should assume the factors which influence the market price of the shares. Otherwise, they would find themselves unable to maximize the market value of the company's share. So now again there might a question arise. So if there are so many valuation models which could be used to understand the market price of the shares of a company, what is the appropriate share valuation model that is there? Now, answering this question, it is always that in practical world, innumerable factors influence the price of a share, and also that these factors change very frequently. That is to tell, there is no stability in how these factors would be changing. Moreover, these factors also vary across shares of different companies. Now, when we know this, we should also understand this, that for such problem of financial management, again some of the question arises, like how much should a particular share be worth, and upon what factors or factor should its value depend. Now, and it is also definite that there is no simple answers to all these questions. And on the other hand, it is generally agreed that the value of an asset depends upon risk and return. And we call it as risk return trade off. We had already discussed regarding this, if you could remember, when we said what is the trade off between risk and return. Now, speaking about risk and return, financial decisions incur different degree of risk, and risk is definitely there in each of the financial decisions that would be taken. Now, the degree might change. That is to tell, some of the financial decisions might be less riskier, others might be more riskier. Now, financial decision always incur different degree of risk. Now, a company's decision to invest its money maybe in government bonds has less risk because the interest rate will known prior hand, and also the risk of default is very less. On the other hand, a company will incur more risk if it decides to invest its money in share, as return is not certain, and also that the rate of return would vary. However, while it is always there that a lower return from government bond and a higher return from shares, because under government than return, the security of the principal amount is given more importance, and also that under government bonds the rate of default would be zero or as minimum as possible. In case of shares, it would be usually high return because it involves high risk, but then the rate of return is uncertain and also it varies. Now, in other words, we can tell that this risk and expected return always move in tandem. That is to tell, the greater the risk, the greater is the expected return. Now, financial decision of the firm is always guided or influenced by risk return trade off. Now, these decisions are interrelated and jointly affects the market value of its shares by influencing return and risk of the firm. Now, the relationship between return and risk can simply said found by how much return you would be getting can be calculated by risk-free rate plus risk premium. Now, speaking about this risk-free rate, it is usually the rate obtained from default risk-free government securities. Now, any investor assuming risk from her or his investment will always require a risk premium above the risk-free rate. Now, this risk-free rate is the compensation for time and risk premium for the risk that has been taken. That is to tell, higher the risk of an action, higher would be the expected return. or the lower the risk, the return or the expected would be lower. Now, a proper balance between risk and return should be maintained to maximize the market value of firm's share. Now, such balance that would be maintained between the risk and return is called as a risk return trade off, and every financial decision involves this trade off. Now, speaking about this, the interrelation that exists between the market value, financial decision, the market value, the financial decision, and risk trade off can be shown as follows. That is to tell, now underlying there is financial management using the modules or using the theories behind that. Every company tries to maximize the value of the shares. When the companies try to maximize the value of their share, they'll have to take different financial decisions for the company. Now, these financial decisions are usually divided into four, that is, investment decision, liquidity decision or liquidity management, financial decision, and dividend decision. Now, usually, this is how the financial management decision takes place. First, we invest, then we see to that cash flows, the inflows and outflows are, uh, you know, to that point wherein the expenses is minimized and the income is maximized. Then you'll have to take decision on the finance, that from where you would be bringing the finance for your organization, and once you get the profit, how would you divide. Now each of this includes a risk, and each of this decision taken by the company would be bringing some kind of return. Now you should see what amount of risk you are ready to take and thereby expect what return you can bring into the organization. Now, that decision of deciding the risk and return is called as trade off. Now, the financial manager, always in a bid to maximize shareholders' wealth, should strive to maximize return in relation to the given risk to ensure maximum return. Now, funds flowing in and out of the firm should also be constantly monitored to assure that they are safeguarded and also properly utilized. Now, the financial reporting system also must be designed to provide timely and accurate picture of firm's activities. Now, speaking further, there is the next question, what is called as agency problem, or in other words, managers versus shareholders goals. Now, than like earlier days, nowadays there is a divorce between the management and the owners. That is to tell, usually in the companies or the corporate world, those who manage the day to day activities of the business would be different, and those who own the company would be different. Now, in large companies, definitely there is a divorce between management and ownership. Now, the decision taking authority in a company will always lie in the hands of the managers. And on the other hand, shareholders, as owners of the company, are the principals and managers are their agents. So, in today's large companies, there is always a principal agent relationship between shareholders and managers. In theoretically or in theory, managers should always act in the best interest of shareholders. That is to tell, their actions and decision should always lead to maximize the shareholders' wealth. But in practice, it may not necessarily be that. The managers may not necessarily act in the best interest of shareholders, and there are chances, and also it is a reality, that these managers may pursue their own personal goals. Now, there are chances that managers may maximize their own wealth. Now, speaking of managers might increase their own wealth is nothing but, by using some of the measures, like maybe in the form of high salaries or perquisites. Now, this can only happen at the cost of shareholders, or they may also sometimes play safe and create satisfactory wealth for the shareholders than the maximum. That is to tell, now shareholders' wealth maximization simply tells that whatever step you take, you see to that the wealth of the shareholder is increased. But then, if at all the managers try to increase their income, maybe in terms of salaries, it simply means the end profit, whatever shareholders had to get, there is some amount of in that final amount or percentage decrease in the final income of the company. That could be one reason. The next could be that instead of trying to get maximum return, they may also take a decision which could satisfy the shareholders, but not maximum return. That happens because of the risk involved. Now, maximizing the shareholders' wealth definitely includes the highest amount of the risk that is to be taken. And if at all those decisions taken to maximize the shareholders' wealth is proved wrong, then the entire responsibility would be falling on the head of managers. So there they might take some decision which would definitely bring in income to the organization, but they might not put 100% of the effort. Now they may avoid taking high investment and financial risk that may otherwise be needed to what we call as maximizing shareholders' wealth. Now, this can be called as satisfying behavior of managers. Now, this satisfying behavior of managers will always frustrate the objective of shareholders' wealth maximization as a guide. Now, it is in the interest of the managers that the firm survives over the long run. Now, managers also wish to enjoy independence and freedom from outside interference, control, and also monitoring. Because shareholders, they would not know how day to day business is being run. Maybe they just know a summary of it. So, when that is the case, too much of interference will always lead to conflict. So, the actions of the managers are very likely to be directed towards the goal of survival and self sufficiency. Further, a company is always a complex organization consisting of multiple stakeholders, such as maybe employees, debt holders, consumers, suppliers, government, and society. Therefore, these managers in practice may pursue their role as a reconciling conflict objectives of stakeholders. Now, this stakeholders' view of manager role may compromise with the objective of shareholders' wealth maximization. Now, this was all about how managers do. And in contrary to that, shareholders also continuously monitor modern companies that would help them to restrict managers' freedom to act in their own self interest, which might cost the shareholders. For that matter, it could be employees, creditors, customers, or even government also keeps an eye on managers' activities. Thus, the possibility of managers pursuing exclusively their own personal goals is reduced. Now, managers can survive only when they are successful, and they are successful when they manage the company better than somebody else can do it. Now, every group connected with the company will, however, evaluate management success from the point of view of fulfillment of its own objective. For that matter, the survival of management will be there, threatened if the objective of any of these groups remains unfulfilled. Now, in reality, the wealth of shareholders in the long run could be maximized only when customers and employees, along with all other stakeholders of a firm, are fully satisfied. Now, speaking about this, the wealth maximization objective may be generally in harmony with the interest of various such groups as owners, employees, creditors, or society, and thus it may be consistent with the management objective of survival. But then there can, however, still arise situations where a conflict may occur between the shareholders and managers. goal. And these finance theories prescribes that under such situation, shareholders' wealth maximization goal should have precedent over the goal of other stakeholders. Now, the conflict between the interest of shareholders and managers that we discussed so long is referred to as agency problem, and it results into what we call as agency cost. So you can see in the picture that the managers are the ones who manage the company, and they would represents the management of any company. Now the shareholders or the owners of the company, and they are regarded as the principal of the company, and because the managers are working under them, they are regarded as agent, and that's how they share the principal agent relation. Now each of these group, the management and the shareholders, they have their own objectives, and the objectives usually differ. Now because of the difference that they are having, there arises some kind of conflict, and when conflict arises, that leads to what we call as agency cost. Now whenever a company faces this agency cost, it includes the less than optimum share value for shareholders and cost incurred by them to monitor the actions of the managers and control their behavior. Now, the agency problem usually vanishes or does not exist when the managers own the company. So, that is the one way to mitigate the agency problem is to give ownership right, maybe through stock option, to managers. Now shareholders can also offer sometimes attractive money and also non-monetary incentives to managers to act in their interest. Now, a close monitoring by other stakeholders, or for that matter, maybe board of directors and outside analysts, also may help in reducing the agency problem. And we can also see that in the capitalistic societies, maybe like United States of America or United Kingdom, usually the takeovers and acquisitions are used as a means of disciplining the managers of the organization. So this was all about the agency problem, which arises because of the difference between the manager's goals and the shareholder's goal, usually when there is a divorce between management and ownership. Moving forward, the next one is the financial goals and firm's mission and objective. Now, in shareholders' wealth maximization, wealth is defined in terms of value or wealth of the shareholders' equity. Now, this basis of the theory of financial management, if at all we try to understand it, is same as that of the classical theory of the firm, which tells maximization of owner's welfare. It is only that earlier there used to be one owner. That's why profit was being used. Because all the profit that a company owns will go for the owner. But in the modern days, these owners are nobody but the shareholders, and we have the name as maximization of shareholders' wealth. Now, in the professionally managed firms of these times, managers are the agents of owners and they always act on the behalf of the owners of the company. Now, shareholders' wealth maximization is a criteria for the financial decision, and therefore valuation models provide the basis, theoretical and conceptual framework. So while discussing all these things, there also and it also leads to some of the questions like, is wealth maximization the objective of the firm, or does a firm exist with the sole objective of serving the interest of the owners? Now, when we try to find answers for this question, we can find that firms do exist with the primary objective of maximizing the welfare of the owners, but in operational terms, they always focus on satisfaction of its customer through production of goods and services needed by them. Now, to tell regarding this, Peter Drucker has quoted his words telling that what is our business is not determined by the producer but by the consumer. It is not defined by the company's name, status, or articles of incorporation, but by the want the customer satisfies when he buys a product or a service. The question can therefore be answered only by looking at the business from the outside, from the point of view of the customer and the market. So, here in which they start to tell that yes, maximization of the wealth of shareholders is definitely the objective of any business organization, but that can only happen when the customers of the business are satisfied, and that's where it becomes necessary that a company should start thinking from the outsider's point of view, especially from the point of view of customer. Now, usually firms in practice state their vision, mission, and values in broad terms and are also concerned about maybe technology, leadership, productivity, market standing, image, profitability, financial resources, employee satisfaction, and such other criteria. Now, speaking of this, there is something called as the objective versus decision criteria. Now, objectives and decision criteria should always be distinguished. Wealth maximization is more appropriately a decision criteria rather than a objective or a goal. Now, all these words may be objective, goals, strategies, vision, mission, you have already known. So, goals or objectives are missions or the basic purpose or what we call as raison d'etre of a firm's existence. They direct the firm's actions. Now, a firm may consider itself a provider of high technology, a builder of electronic base, or a provider of best and cheap transport service. Now, the firm designs its strategy around such basic objectives and accordingly it defines its markets, products, and technology. Now, to support its strategy, the firm lays down policies in the areas of production, purchase, marketing, technology, finance, and so on. The first step in making a decision is to see that it is consistent with the firm's strategy and passes through the policy screening. That is to tell, the policy of the company should come first. The shareholders' wealth maximization is the second level criteria, ensuring that the decisions meets the minimum standard of what we call as economic performance. So it is important to note that the management is not only the agent but also becomes trustee for various stakeholders of an economic unit. So it goes without telling that it is the manager who actually decides or helps any business organization to run successfully over a long time period. And usually, if we see, as we discussed earlier, whenever this management or the managers act as the owner of the company, that is when a business would be running for a long time and would be surviving all the challenges in the market because they would know the day-to-day activities of the business also, and also they would take every decision which at the end is going to only increase their wealth. So it is the responsibility of the management to harmonize the interest of owners with that of the employees, creditors, government, or society. Now, this happens when there is a divorce between the management and shareholders, and they'll have to satisfy all other stakeholders. The wealth maximization criteria would simply indicate whether action is economically viable or not. For this session, let us wind up here, and for the coming session, let us discuss further.